Welcome to 2022 and the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. Wonderful scenes around the speedway, quite chilly, but the cars are rolling off on their formation laps. Hello everybody, I'm John Hindhaugh, and along with Jeremy Shaw, we're in the Haggerty broadcast booth. Shea Adam is down in the pit lane for us, just keeping an eye on everything that is happening. There's a huge sense of anticipation as this race over 100 minutes will set the grid for next weekend. The last car out of the pit lane was the number 6 Mühlner Motorsports America Duquesne D08. That car out of position, so I don't know if perhaps they have had a late penalty. Let's get down to Shea Adam and find out what she can tell us about that particular car. Shea? Shea just still patrolling the pit lane. Well, Jeremy, largest field ever was 1984. 82 cars. We're a wee bit down on that, but 61 is a cracking field, and it took you over 8 minutes to run through the grid in the Michelin Countdown to Green. Come back to that thought in a moment for you. We're at Daytona International Speedway here in Florida. 12 corners, just over 3.5 miles. It's much trickier than it looks when it's laid out on a piece of paper. The transition down into the infield at turn 1 has a couple of different lines on it, and it also, the track actually changes in elevation quite significantly, and there's a couple of evil bumps around some of the fast turns, particularly the kink on the Lake Lloyd side of the infield section. Then you've got to get back up onto the speedway without losing the back end of the car and shooting it into the wall. New curbs, particularly on the exit of the bus stop. They have been flattened out a little bit. There were some sausage curbs there, but they seem to not have caused the problems that everybody was talking about earlier in the week. At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch with us. Jeremy Shaw, 61 cars, excitement building as they head round onto their second formation lap.
Yeah, very cool, and it's a tremendous entry. And yeah, even though there were there've been more cars in the past, I can tell you for sure there's never been as stacked a field as we have right now. There are no make weights in this field whatsoever, which certainly wasn't the case back in the 80s when we had those massive numbers of cars here. These are all seriously run cars with absolutely aspirations to win the race. I honestly can't think of a single car, I don't think, in this field that isn't capable in its day of at least running up toward the front in its class.
Shea has been trying to find out what happened with the number 6. It's all the way back at the tail of the field for Mühlner Motorsports. Shea, what can you tell us?
Well, the team are acting as if there was nothing wrong with the car and that it rolled off just a little bit late. The car would not fire when they were asking it to, and then finally it did get going after the last GT car rolled out, but before the pit close light came on, so it will be allowed to start, but from the back of the field. And if you'll notice, we have 2 safety cars running around because we are going to have a prototype and a GT start separate.
Possibly tactical, maybe just staying out of the way. We've got 100 minutes on the clock, 1 hour and 40. This is the competitive, I suppose you could say we were competitive when we were setting the grid for this yesterday. So DPIs at the front of the field, 7 of those, 10 of the LMP2s, LMP3s, same number, and then a huge GT3 field, GTD Pro at the front of the field for factory all pro cars, 13 of those in their first outing, and the rest of the field made up by the usual variety of GT cars. Waiting for the safety car to pull in. Beautiful sunshine, but still quite chilly with the prototypes just beginning to form up. One or two stragglers just coming in to line, and the Milner Motorsport car has not picked its way through the GT Daytona field. So the green flag is in the air, and Tristan Fortier from pole position gets a good start. Alex Lynn alongside him. Tristan Nunez dives down to the inside with Jimmy Johnson in the Allied Cadillac trying to make up positions there. And now our attention falls back to the Porsche front where we've got a prototype moving very slowly indeed. That's the number 38 car down on the infield. We'll get to that in a moment. Will we go green here? I think we will, because they've managed to get past there. And it is Alex Imperatori in the KCMG white, blue and black car, and alongside him Mathieu Jaminet, Porsche factory driver, in the plaid Porsche from Pfaff. They're side by side. Behind them, it's a couple of AMGs and then the GTDs. Kenny Bull, great qualifying for him yesterday. And Russell Ward, see above comment. Kenny in the flame-fronted machine in third place at the moment through the International Horseshoe. And already some contact further back down the field. The 98 Aston Martin and the number 71 Lamborghini, both very close. If there wasn't a touch there, it was very close indeed. T3 Motorsport North America's Huracan getting the worst of that one. But at the front of the field, Tristan Fortier converts his front row position into a lead. And Jeremy, we're underway for 2022.
We are indeed, and focusing on the GT contenders with the pictures here, so I'm not quite sure what's going on at the front of the prototypes, but there's some side-by-side battling here with the two WeatherTech cars, two teammates, except one's a Porsche and one's a Mercedes, and they head around the banking in turns 1 and 2 and heading down the back straights. It's going to be a tremendous battle in GTD, no question about it. Two
AMG GT3s and one of the Porsches for WeatherTech. Shea Adam is at Performance Tech. Now number 48 car, very slow on the start, and was right down on the apron coming through the tri-oval. Shea, what can you tell us?
The engine's cover is coming off, and there is a spare battery in hand on the other side of the pit wall. This might be an alternator issue for this engine.
Thank you, Shea. Not what you want, but better to have it now than the next weekend, of course. So, front of the field, Tristan Fortier from Renger van der Zande, who's come up into second position in the 0-1. Then it's Nunez. Tom Blomqvist in the Acura number 60 in fourth position. So there was a wee bit of shuffling around. MSR in fourth. Jeremy?
There was a lot of shuffling around, because as you say there, Renger van der Zande from 6th to 2nd. His teammate Alex Lynn went from 2nd to 6th. So that's a curious turn of events there. With the two Chip Ganassi Cadillacs changing positions completely from almost front to back. Second to front and front to back. So that was rather curious. But your race settling down now. Tristan Fortier got a nice little lead, and the other kind of loser on that first lap was Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
Who fell from fourth down to 7th and last in DPI.
I thought I saw him going for a manoeuvre at turn 2, and he may just have got out of the groove there. Through goes Van der Zande, completes another lap. It's about a second between Van der Zande, who puts the fastest lap of the race in, trying to chase down Vautier, and already some of the cars that were out of position just trying to pick their way through. And in fact, we've got a number of the prototypes who were out of kilter, picking their way through the back of the field already. So a fairly messy start at the front of the field. And we said in our Porsche Keys to Race that they'd have to be learning about traffic with 61 cars on the track, and certainly that is the case. The 5th place Acura of Philippe Albuquerque at the kink, throwing up a huge pile of dust, and already a problem for Mark Varmé in the number 7 Duqueine. This is one of the LMP3 cars for 47 Motorsport and Drive Capital. He's off the circuit to drivers left at the International Horseshoe. Now he's managed to fire up the V8 engine, and he's got it going again. So good for him and good for race control there. They didn't go for the big yellow button straight away. Let that one play out. But now he's going to have eyes in the back of his head, Jeremy, as the GTD Pro field begin to eat him up as he goes down towards the Kingston end of the western end of the racetrack.
Yeah, and he's until he can get himself back to the line here, he's going to be watching a lot of cars go past him because there's a tightly packed field there, as we've become accustomed to over the last several years. But a good start then. Here's a replay of the start. A good jump there for Tristan Vautier. So he was well clear into turn one. And around the outside goes Renger van der Zender. A brilliant move all the way around the outside of 4 cars in turn one. Runs a little bit wide, but comes back on in third position. And clearly by the end of the lap, he'd managed to find a way past Tristan Vautier as well. So a brilliant opportunity start from Renger van der Zender in that number 01. Cadillac from Chequered Racing. His guys have a lot of success here with the hard of course, and he's showing exactly why.
So early stages then. Tristan Vautier leading. Traffic is going to be immense all the way through this 100-minute race. It almost seems somewhat pointless to give you the positions, particularly in GTD, because they're changing corner to corner. The bright copper-coloured McLaren fighting its way through the traffic there. That one at least we can see in the afternoon sunshine, and great it looks as well. It's Brendan Eribe in that number 70 car, and he's sitting in at about 5th of GTD. We've got a lot of GTD Pro cars ahead, but we have got 3 GTD runners in the shape of the Winwood car, number 57 of Russell Ward. Kenny Bull has lost that position to Russell, and then John Miller in the McLaren, he's right in there as well in the 59.
Yeah, very, very impressive. John Miller has been this week all the way through the week in that crucial motorsports McLaren. Paul Holton, who we've known for quite a few years now, he's only 25 years of age, but from Tallahassee in Florida, he's established his crucial motorsports team. He's got Aaron Nash as his operations manager, and they've clearly taken to this McLaren. Paul Holton's been associated with McLaren also for several years, since moving up from the Michelin Pilot Challenge, which he also drove with McLaren for Cup Racing. And John Miller from Orange, California, 36 years of age, making his debut in the IMSA series in recent years, but he did have one previous start in the Rolex 24 quite a few years ago. So he's using that experience in that Cup 59 McLaren.
At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch with us here in the Haggerty broadcast booth, down into turn 1 for Mustang sampling. Traffic. A little bit more gold on that car this year, just a little tweak on 1 or 2 of the liveries. Tristan Vautier now has to think about where the passes can be made. Goes by the Liquid Moly BMW M4 GT3s, very popular, so popular in fact the BMW couldn't build them fast enough. Also, by the way, we wish the former head of BMW Motorsport and M, Mike Crack, the best in his new job. He's got Aston Martin Formula 1. Plundering talent from sports and endurance racing. We wish him all the best in his new endeavours. He'll be much missed in sports car paddocks all the way around the world. So Vautier by about 2 seconds in the Mustang sampling car from the 01 Cadillac in second. Then it's Tristan Nunes in the 31. That's the red and white Wheelan car picking its way through traffic through the bus stop at the moment. In the classes, LMP2 number 52, Ben Keating from pole position. He's got his name next to a couple of cars for next weekend. And it's doing, in fact, the bus at pole position. Yes, PR1 Matheson Motorsport leading then in P2. In P3, it's Cameron Shields doing the job. That was the Paul Sitting car as well for Milner Motorsports America. In GTD Pro, Mathieu Jaminet has got the jump finally now, as off goes the 31 Cadillac Whelan car, and that is Tristan Fortier coming out of turn 4 and just got to weave wheels on the dirt. Tristan Nunez, sorry, not Tristan Fortier, and has recovered. And I think he's lost at least one spot. Blomqvist has gone through. I'm trying to work out whether Albuquerque has gone through as well. Yes, I think he has. Yeah, he has.
The two Acuras, John, seem to have exchanged positions as well. They're not much sure whether that was as a result of Tristan being just edged off the road there, I think, by one of the ZTD cars. So just taking it a little bit cautious, I think, was Vergier. Excuse me, same thing. Was Tristan Nunez. Not used to seeing Nunez, of course, in a DPI car. Fabulous opportunity for the very, very talented youngster really to join the DPI team. And he was just making sure they ran off the road just to make sure there wasn't any stout contact between himself and a GTD car. All of a sudden, coming out of turn 2, that leads towards a horseshoe. He was clearly running out of road, so he elected to run off onto the grass, knowing that there's nothing out there that's going to do any damage to the car. So lost him a couple of positions, and you won't be too worried about that. Just talking about Ben Keating, by the way, he's taken the lead, as you said, John, in LMP2. Stephen Thomas in the sister car for PR1 Motorsports. They were running as rival teams last season, with Bobby Golozinski running the number 11 car for Winnow, then. Now they've teamed up together, and Stephen Thomas led at the start, but Ben Keating took the lead in LMP2 a couple of laps to go in, kind of 52. This is his 12th year that he's started the Rolex 24 at Daytona, or will have started 24 at Daytona. 6 previous occasions, however, he's driven at more than one car during the race.
Not good news, not all good news. I think I saw a car going behind the wall. Shea Adam can give us more news on that. Did you manage to work out which one it was, Shea? Of course you did.
Well, it was last year's LMP3 champion. Gar Robinson took the lead of the championship here at Daytona by winning the Rolex last year. Never forfeited it. He held on to that all the way to the LMP3 and the Michelin Endurance Championship. His car, though, went behind the wall, which means that Gar is going to have last place points in the LMP3 to kick things off for the 2022 campaign.
Yeah, I wonder whether is that tactical, Shea, because that car didn't go out for qualifying yesterday, so it could be they're comfortable with what they've got. Bill Riley, he's one of the master tacticians out there, isn't he? Maybe he just doesn't want to put any more mileage for whatever is on that car. All of the drivers have experience at Daytona, so there's no need, I suppose, to push too hard. And they know they can win. They did so last year. Having said that, both Kai van Berlo and Michael Cooper. Kai van Berlo is making his, both of the guys making their debut this weekend and at Daytona. So one would have thought that it wouldn't have been a bad idea to give them some time. So maybe we can find out whether that was tactical or not, the number 74 LMP3 car.
Suppose there's a part of me that thinks don't put too much mileage on the machinery if you don't have to. Tom Blomqvist having a good run, 3rd position at the moment, carving his way through traffic. In the number 60, that's the pink and white Acura. Meantime, WeatherTech and the number 12 Lexus. Now, got to get this right, haven't we? This is going to be complicated for everybody to follow through the year, because we have 2 Lexus RCFs which are nigh on identical. I'll come back to that thought in a moment, because the Heart of Racing Aston Martin momentarily is facing the wrong direction on the infield, and spins around and gets back, regains the hard standing. Yeah, the number 12 is the standard GTD. The team car, the 14, Ben Barnicoat, driving that at the moment in 4th position in GTD Pro. So hard enough last year to tell 12 and 14 apart. We've now got to put them in different classes, Jeremy.
Yeah. Try to make it difficult for us, aren't they? I think I noted a slight difference between the car. There's a bit more black on the number 14 car than on the number 12, and I did make a note of where that difference was. Was it on the shade band, or I can't remember now?
Well, don't forget the GTD Pros have got the GTD AMS rather have got the green
red
mirrors.
Yeah, no, the AMS have the AMS have the green mirrors.
Correct.
Yes, so we can't identify by the mirrors because it's red for mirrors on the Pro cars. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And also the end plates on the rear wing as well, red for Pro, green for AM.
Yeah, that's the thing that I noticed, and there's a little bit on the shade band as well. Good news is the number 27 Aston Martin Vantage, Roman De Angelis, coming off a really good run in a GT4 car for Heart of Racing with Alex Riberas at Dubai Autodrome last weekend. Just went straight on at the kink. I think he was trying to stay out of the way of a prototype, and to a bit of smart driving by Roman to avoid him rejoining at unabated speed just on the exit of the western horseshoe. He let the car spin and then took one of the option routes on the infield there. He is running again. He's dropped a couple of places down to 47th, but that car is still running. As I say, came second in class in GT4 in the Dubai 24 hours last weekend, and a good chat when I was doing my pit stint between midnight and 3 a.m. Really nice to be back in the pits, I have to say. Although conditions somewhat warmer than here this weekend. But Alex in fine form, and Roman as well. They thoroughly enjoyed their little sojourn to the United Arab Emirates. Came home with some trophies.
Yeah, the other Heart of Racing Aston Martin Ross Gunn, of course, shared with Roman last year. They've been split up this year. Number 23 car is the pro entry for Heart of Racing, sharing with Alex Riberas and Maxime Martin. Just 3 drivers in that car. There's 8 or 9 teams that are elected to run 3 drivers only in their cars for this race. The majority have gone for 4. The only DPI car that's got 3 drivers is number 31 with Viva Tarani, Tristan Nunez, and for next week Mike Conway. But there's several of them in GTD Pro running 3 drivers. The 23 Aston, by the way, running in 3rd place in the GTD Pro category and 4th overall, let's say, in GTD, behind Russell Ford, who's still running 3rd there and running along very nicely in that GTD class, leading Winward Mercedes car number 57. So he's running again very, very well. That car, of course, won this race last year.
Just working out how I'm going to fit all these cars on my timing screens. I've got 34 on one and the rest on another. I've got to keep remembering where I'm looking at the moment. Amazingly, we've had 9 minutes already. No, check that. We've had 19 minutes already. And we still have the black, mostly black, Mustang sampling Cadillac leading. Coming through now the LMP3s. Just going through the purple numbers. That was the Town Motorsport car. They've just gone by. That's John Ferrano. He's second in LMP3, 18th overall. As the leaders head back onto the banking, and Renger van der Zande is almost within striking distance, but almost isn't quite there. And it's all going to be made up in traffic. A lot of patience from the lappers and lappies required, said Wickerbill at IMSA Radio. Yes, you're absolutely right. And a number of people saying, wow, if this is now, what's it going to be like next week? What's it going to be like in the dark? Adding another dimension to it. Well, the simple answer to that, and maybe I should have put this in the Porsche Keys to Race, it will be next week in our Michelin Countdown to Green. The race is going to be won and lost in traffic, I reckon, Jeremy.
Yeah, no, fair comment. I think it certainly is. And you know, the GTD cars, they've been lapped every 6 or 7 laps by the prototypes cars. So there's a huge speed differential there. The race leader is running in traffic in the sort of 1 minute 35, 1 minute 36. His fastest lap of the race was set in clean air on lap 3 by Tristan Vautier, a 1:34.934. I lie, actually. Alex Lynn on the next lap turned out 1:34.74. So he has set the fastest lap of the race. Alex Lynn in that number 02 car. It's the second, of course, of the 2 this year Cadillac Chip Ganassi entries. He has moved ahead of Tristan Nunez over the last couple of laps. And Nunez actually is dropping back a little bit from that rest of the pack in DPI. But he's still clear of Jimmy Johnson, who's about 4 seconds behind in car number 48.
Hello to...
and where I was going, that was so they're doing 35, 36s. The GTD cars are running 46, so a 10-second difference.
Now, problem for... That was on the back stretch. It looked like somebody had missed the bus stop there, and there was a little bit of what looked to be fluid coming out the back of one of the prototypes. Got to try and work out which one it was. I think it might have been the number 20 Dennis Anderson driven car, but only saw it for a moment. We'll see that again in a sec. Hello to C Brown Motorsport. He said I may be late to the party here, but are GTD in GT3 spec already? No, they always have been GT3 spec in IMSA. No Chevys. Yes, we have 2 Chevrolet Corvettes, but they aren't GT3 cars. They're reworked GT Le Mans cars. There's 2 here this weekend, which are the 2 cars, the race car and the spare for the whole season. The other 2 chassis are still in GT Le Mans specification, and that will be the race car and the spare for a full season of FIA WEC, which of course kicks off in March with their run before the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. They're the opening act, if you will, to that big weekend and celebration of endurance racing. And so thank you for C Brown Motorsport for that.
The KCMG Porsche still leading in, second place in GTD Pro. It's about almost a couple of seconds behind the FAF Motorsports cars for Mathieu Jaminet. The Porsche factory drivers, of course, this is a Frenchman. And the Swiss there, Alexandre Imperatori for KCMG, team based in Hong Kong, making its debut in this championship. Alexandra has driven here once before, but also in GTD back in 2014. But he's doing a nice job there, just running on nicely in second position. Russell Ward in that Windward Racing First Horizons car in third place of the GTD cars, first in non-pro. Pit stops, John.
Shea Adam is watching the Whelan Cadillac come into the pit lane, the number 31, Shea.
Fuel, tires, and a driver change as the Pro category, so GTD Pro and DPI. Minimum drive time was only 5 minutes, which means that they can all do driver changes. For the AM classes, for LMP2, LMP3, and GTD, it will be 30 minutes. That was a perfect stop by Whelan Engineering. And better yet for them, Pippo Durrani was able to get away from the box with no outside assistance. They have had needed guys to push the car off, particularly in night practice last night.
Hello to Carol and Kevin Brink. Kevin down in Coachella, it's outside of Thermal, California. Carol, I think, is in Monterey this weekend. Thank you for your support, as ever, at IMSA Radio. Every single race, live, free, no blocks, no breaks on IMSARadio.com. And for most of you outside the US, we've got sound and vision for the qualifying. Actually, qualifying is available in the US as well for all of the standard races across this 2022 season for WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. Looks like the number 60 is peeling off. This is the MSR 4th place car. A few extra stripes on that one this year, Shane. A bit more white on the front of that Sirius XM.
Yes, it's not an entirely pink machine this year for the Auto Nation sponsored Acura Meyer Shank Racing. They are doing fuel and tires and again a driver change. Tom Blomqvist getting out after done his first ever racing laps around Daytona International Speedway, handing over to the pole man extraordinaire Oliver Jarvis, who's been on pole here 2 times in the last 3 years. Not the winner of the race last year, but the last individual pole setter. In an Acura. That'll take some getting used to, but you know what? I kind of like the sound of it.
Down and away, as you heard behind Shea's pit report. Shea Adam, as ever for us in the pit lane, will be joined next weekend by the combined talents of Andrew Marriott and Joe Bradley to make up our pit lane team. So, really, they are so excited to be getting back trackside again. It's John Hindhaugh and Jeremy Shaw in the Haggerty broadcast booth for this one, and we'll have a little bit of help next weekend from Johnny Palmer, Bruce Jones, I believe, stepping in as well, and our favourite Scotsman, Peter Mackay, all adding their voices to the Haggerty broadcast booth. Still an hour and a quarter of this one to go, and the battle at the front of the field, Jeremy, is absolutely nip and tuck, and it's traffic behind one of the GTD Pro Corvettes. That's going to take some getting used to as well. Into the International Horseshoe, right in front of them, prototypes as well. And here's the opportunity for Renger van der Zande. Looks to try and make a move, can't get it done. 48 with his head on a swivel at the moment, and has picked his way through the traffic, Jeremy Shaw, very nicely indeed.
Yeah, he has, of course. Yeah, he's hugely experienced, and that would be expected of him. Alex Lynn is also running very, very well in the second. The Ganassi car is kind of a 0-2 up to 4th position now, and he's worked his way a lot closer to the leaders than he was. He's taken advantage of the fact, well, he overtook Tristan Nunez, number 31 car, and then closed in on the number 10, and he's right with that car, looking to maybe take over 3rd position before that car will be into the pits as well.
Amazing amount of concentration for all of the drivers. I know we've spoken about this before, and again, interestingly, at Dubai last weekend, we were talking about the art of being passed as well as the art of doing the passing. And when you're in a big battle for your own class positions, allowing the faster cars through at a spot that is clean and not dangerous for either of you, very, very important indeed. Battles further down the field, Acura and the 02 Cadillac now very close together. In fact, the top 4, Jeremy, in that traffic are now almost within striking distance of each other, but Tristan Fortier, very impressive, is just managing to stay out of the grasps of Renger van der Zande, Philippe Albuquerque and Alex Lynn in respectively the 01, the 10 and the 02.
Yeah, Tristan Fortier's got a good amount of experience now. He the final race of last year, Petit Le Mans, was his 50th start in the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship, and he's had some success along the way, of course, with that win last year at Sebring, had a couple of pole positions to his name. So we know how fast he is, and he's relishing this Mustang sampling car at the moment and taking full advantage of it, holding on to that lead, as you say, not by very much. The challenge here, down the inside goes the Acura, trying to get back past Philippe Albuquerque, number 10, number 02 then. Very, very close.
And Shea Adam, you're going to have a pit caller shortly, and it is the 2nd place car with Renger van der Zande, who will be peeling onto the pit lane. Does that now, drops onto the pit line, and the black and cream number 1 is heading your way.
Both of the Cadillac Racing entries are coming onto the pit lane. They are boxed separately. The 02 committing way too early, by the way, trying to hit me. Alex, that was mean. I'm going to talk to him about that afterwards. Driver change for the 02. Alex Lynn out, Earl Bamber in, fuel and tires for them. Driver change for the 01. Fuel and tires as Sebastian Bourdais gets to take over there. And looks like they're just adjusting the belts in the cockpit now, still waiting on the fuel, so no time lost for either of these Cadillacs. Which car is going to get back out first? It should be the 01. Yep, fires back up into life, gets rolling down the pit lane, and Sebastian Bourdais easily beats out Earl Bamber. This could get spicy.
Thank you, Shea. Shea Adam, our pit lane reporter, IMSA Radio, with live coverage of the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship qualifying race at the Raw before the Rolex 24, the big event, and the 60th running of the big event next weekend. Our coverage starting on Wednesday with a special edition of Midweek Motorsport. That's at 3 Eastern, 8 UK over on RS1. I asked Tim nicely, we'll stick that on IMSA Radio as well. Have the team on site, and then we'll be covering the sessions culminating in the full 24 hours for you, flag to flag, Saturday and Sunday. Quite an earlier start as well in the afternoon, so do check your local listings. If you go to imsaradio.com, the schedule of our broadcast is all there, and it auto converts into your time zone. Leader in the pits and giving up the lead, Tristan Vautier, the Mustang Sandwich.
And giving up his car, Tristan Vautier handing over to Richard Westbrook. These are sticker Michelin tires going on to the 5 Mustang sampling livery JDC Miller Motorsport Cadillac. The driver change assistant is still in the cockpit trying to get Westy buckled in. Door closes very gently. I have to say I was impressed with that, but given that Westy is quite a tall guy, I'm sure he appreciated that. Fuel nozzles out. Westy as into the pit lane, we also have the number 8 for Tower Motorsports. That is an LMP2 runner. John Ferrano started the car. Louis Delatraz is going to be taking over, and when he was running this morning in warm-up, he was at the top of the charts. So watch that car. It's about to get very competitive. In the LMP2 category, we have 2 more cars coming in. Ben Keating in the 52, and his team car, the number 11, Stephen Thomas. Keating will be getting out, handing over to Mikkel Jensen, and it will be Jonathan Bomarito climbing aboard his first stint in an LMP2 machine at Daytona in a competitive environment. Fuel and tires for both of them as well.
Ben Keating coming in out of the lead. Here comes the 01 Cadillac of Sebastian Bourdais. Just a note, Jeremy, Chris Humphreys, hello Chris, one of the Orange Army back in the UK, and just wondering how long these cars would normally be running on a green stint, because he thinks this might be, it seems a little bit early, and certainly they don't seem to be putting a lot of fuel in these cars, Jeremy.
No, that's right. I think they're pitting now because they can get to the end of the race with one more pit stop, they will believe. So they can run 35 minutes or so comfortably, I think, and perhaps, 35 minutes or so is around about the norm, I think, for a stint in a DPI car at the front of the field. So we've now got to 80, how long to go? An hour and 67 minutes remaining. So from here, they should be able to make it on one more stop with no problem at all. And still run flat out, even with no yellows.
61 laps being predicted by the computer, so that would leave us 41 to go at the moment. Some cars came through the pits there, Shea, and did not go to their pit boxes. That's the first competitive penalties of the year then.
Well, both of the Cadillac Racing entered cars came down the pit lane to serve drive-through penalties. Both exceeded the speed limit by 1 kilometer an hour. So that's why you saw both of those cars back down in the pit lane.
Oops. Well, start the way you mean to go on. That'll be a reset of that. The problem for them will be that if they didn't make a mistake on the button, and if it's just set incorrectly and they're pushing the limit, then it's going to happen every time they come in the pit lane. So they're going to have to go back the old way of getting it into a gear and driving at the revs. so that they don't get pinged every time. Hello to McLaren Philadelphia, to Alan Prosser, to Billy Mann, all either watching and listening. Side by side on the banking, Mustang sampling number 31 and the 60 of Oliver Jarvis. That's Pipo Derani in the 31 red and white car, Oliver Jarvis in the pink and white car, coming down to the bus stop now with traffic ahead of them. Really don't need to say with traffic ahead of them, because our tracker just shows everybody spread out almost in perfect symmetry around the speedway at the moment. One of the G-Drive cars right in the mix there as well. That's the orange and black prototype, not in the same class as these two. They're scrapping over third and fourth position as they come down past the new M4 BMWs in their livery, red and black, and white with the M stripes on for the two RLL BMWs. Hello to Piers and the rest of the team, and to Mr. Ray Hall. Oh, pushed onto the grass by the number 60, for the number 60 rather, as they're going past the AF Corsa Ferrari. That's the blue Ferrari. That's the Cetilar car with the tricolore on the stripes on the middle of that car. Well, that was very, very close indeed. And this is now the battle for the lead as they went across the line. So it's Ollie Jarvis now leading from Pipo Derani as the timing updates for us. So it's Jarvis from Derani, from Ricky Taylor, from Richard Westbrook, Acura Cadillac in the top four, separated by 6.5 seconds, Jeremy.
That's right, with the two Chip Ganassi cars having fallen well back, having had made those additional pit stops. So Kamui Kobayashi has taken over from Jimmy Johnson, number 48 Ally car, and he is running in that fifth position. It's about 14 seconds behind Richard Westbrook, which is a similar sort of gap as it was when Jimmy brought that car in. But even now, with the pit stop, with the additional stops, the two Ganassi cars are another 20 seconds behind Kobayashi.
Hello to everybody from Porsche Sports. Discord party going on at the moment. A lot of people choosing to join in different ways. Huge weekend of sport for the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship, really getting the season underway in the best possible way. Coming down to the hour to go of racing. Now, we talked about the front of the field. Expect to see the GT3 cars, the GT Daytona cars in Pro and Am. There's no difference in the spec of these cars, no difference in the tyres or anything else. It's all down to how fast the drivers can pedal them, so there's no reason that the standard GTD shouldn't be there or thereabouts. But I think there is a little bit of difference in how they fuel the fuel loads for those cars, Jeremy.
No, same specs all the way around.
Okay, right,
I believe,
okay.
John. Yeah.
Okay. So 62 minutes to go. Aston Martin under pressure at the moment by AMG GT and Porsche as they come out of the bus stop. It's the WeatherTech Porsche who's on the back of that. How far up the running have they managed to get? WeatherTech 79 car with Julian Andlau behind the wheel. He is 1, 2, 3, 4th at the moment in class. Pulls out to go round Russell Ward.
Yeah, we're now seeing the pro cars kind of moving more where they should be, effectively, with the pro drivers. We've now got the best of the non-pro drivers, as you say, Russell Ward there running in the 5th position out of all of the GTD cars. He's just being passed by Julian Andlau, as you say. So ahead of him, still the two Porsches out front. Jaminet in car number 9, Imperatori in car number 2. In 3rd position in the class, about 3 seconds back, is Andrea Caldarelli in that number 63 Lamborghini. That's the TR3 racing team, making a step up from Lamborghini Mayo in North America. He also ran some SRO in North America last year as well. stepping up this year into the WeatherTech SportsCar Championship, and Ross Gunn still running 4th out of GTD Pro in the Aston Martin for Heart of Racing team. That's number 23 car. So we've now got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 GTD cars in the top 8, with Russell Ward, the only non-pro interloper. Second in non-pro is John Miller, still in that number 59 McLaren, just ahead of a trio of non-pro Mercedes. Mike Skeed, car number 32, Kenny Hubble, the pole sitter in that category, number 75, and Michael De Quesada running in the Allegra Motorsports Mercedes.
Shea Adam is down in the pit lane. We've had some driver changes at the front of the DPI field, so that means we can have a word with Tristan Gauthier.
Tristan, it must have been nice when you weren't having to worry about the DPIs, but how crazy is the traffic trying to dart through it all?
Yeah, it's very tricky out there with especially the LMP3 cars and the LMP2s. It's not very straightforward, so have to stay patient, but you gotta go for the gaps as well. It's a fine line to judge, but very good fun overall. It was cool to lead. I had a good start, pulled away a little bit. I think the 01 and the 10 are a bit better on their tires than we were. But yeah, good fun. Managed to hang on to the lead. We lost a lot on that pit sequence, so a bit upset about that. I don't know exactly what happened, but we're in the game. It's a lot of fun, and yeah, a lot going on behind the wheel with 60 cars on track, so really having fun.
I can tell there's a smile on your face. Hey, good job.
Thank you.
Under the hour to go now. If you are just joining us, welcome along to the Haggerty broadcast booth. John Hindhaugh, Jeremy Shaw, Shea Adam, as you heard there, down in the pits. It's Oliver Jarvis who leads by 0.2 of a second. The 60 Acura from the number 31 red and white Pipo Durrani driven Wayland Cadillac. Then Ricky Taylor in the Cunningham and Altman number 10 Acura. Richard Westbrook aboard the Mustang sampling number 5. There's 4 seconds between those 4, and Westy is hunting down the blue and black Acura for 3rd position. Across the tri-oval and down into turn number 1. And they've got traffic now, and right ahead is Ricky Taylor. He had to lift out of it there as well, and that's held him up. Opportunity perhaps for a little bit of advantage to be made through the International Horseshoe at the eastern end of the infield. Beautiful sunshine glinting off the fabulous liveries. Well done to Andy Blackmore, Spotter's Guide, for getting all 61 cars on the official IMSA Spotter's Guide before the start of the race. So next to come in terms of the classes, expect to see some of the GTD cars coming in. Waiting for Alex Imperatori or Matthew Jaminet to jump in. I would expect those, Jeremy, within the next, next 5 to 10 minutes?
Yeah, they could, yeah. Where are we into this race? 42 minutes in. Yeah, they can do another 10 or 15. Well, they could probably do another 15 minutes. And the longer you stay out, the greater the opportunity to perhaps catch a yellow flag. It's amazing we haven't done. No, I'm not going to say that. We've had a nice clean race so far.
Too late.
And as Shea was talking about earlier on, the minimum drive time for the GTD non-pros is 30 minutes. Actually, it's pro. It's pro all the GT goes. The minimum drive time is 30 minutes. So that has already elapsed. So they are able to make pit stops and drive changes anytime now.
Shea
and
Adam
for the last 15 minutes.
Shea Adam is seeing some movement from some of the GTD pro teams. Shea, whilst we've got that, Josh Barrett, who's one of the great and talented circuit commentators in the UK, saying of this GTD as one class or two separate classes when it comes to rear bikes. And there's two separate classes, isn't it?
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear the question, John, but I do have visitors down on the pit lane. We've got the 16 Wright Motorsport Porsche. That is Jan Halen taking over the champion last year in Pilot Challenge and the Endurance Cup winner as well. We've got the 96 Turner Motorsport BMW on the pit lane too. But the car that I'm staring at is the red and black BMW. This one is the 25. Connor De Filippi taking over for John Edwards. There's fuel and sticker Michelin tires for this car. I'm curious to see how long it is stationary in its box, because as Jeremy said, the stint should be a little bit longer. Maximum pit time for the fuel tank, or minimum pit time I should say, is 40 seconds. So I'm curious to see when the car does get rolling, just exactly how long it spends in its pit box, how much fuel it used out on the circuit. We are also waiting for, by the way, the answer was, the purple timing was not working, so we don't get that answer. Turner is still up there doing their driver change as well. That's Robbie Foley getting out, Bill Oberlin getting in. We are waiting for the 3 Corvette. That crew is up on the wall and ready to see Antonio Garcia in and Jordan Taylor out.
Thank you, Shea. Very loud down on the pit lane. Side by side, AMG, Action, WeatherTech and Sun Energy 1 down into turn 1. Porsche just sitting in behind them as well as they dive through. WeatherTech just making the move. And that was a nice run through. As they, a couple of weeks ago, last weekend in fact, in the Dubai 24 Hours, they got the camel ride, did their job very nicely indeed in that number 75 car. Can't miss the flames on the front of that one. Jeremy, as it was so loud, Shea couldn't hear me. We'll answer Josh's question. GTD and GTD Pro, are they counted as a single GTD class for the purposes of wave buys, or is it two completely separate classes in terms of where your own leader
I think they're
is?
treated the same.
Ah.
I believe so.
Right. So it's a sub-class within. Right.
Yeah.
Jamie Price, who's trackside. Jamie, I hope you can hear us. Great to have you back at the track after your travails at the end of last year. He says, this is mayhem. I can't even find my clients. If you don't know, Jamie Price is a very, very talented photographer. He says, I can't find my clients in the traffic. Fun to watch, tough to shoot. Good to have you back, Jamie.
And the last 2 laps, by the way, John, Oliver Jarvis in the lead on this race for the Meyer Shank with Agajanian Acura team has just set his fastest laps of the race, 38.3 on lap 27, 35.3 on lap 27, 35.1 last time around. The fastest lap of the race still stands to Alex Lynn, a 34.7 back on lap 4, but clearly Oliver Jarvis there taking full advantage of a couple of clear laps. He's pulled away about 1.7 seconds over the second place Pipo Derani.
15 WeatherTech AMG in the pit lane, and one of the Lexus as well. That is the 12 car. That's the GTD car with the green months on the side. Shea Adams watching the stops.
We had fuel, tires, and a driver change for the Lexus. Frankie Montalvo hands over to Townsend Bell. No, this is not 2019 or 2020, but rather the duo reunited for the Rolex. Came from the lead of GTD Pro was the number 2 KCMG Porsche, still waiting on that service to finish, as the 15 Mercedes, which came in behind it in the hands of Austin Cindric, has already roared back into life onto the pit lane now in the hands of Dirk Mueller. I miss saying that. And guess who got behind the wheel of the number 2 Porsche for KCMG? That would be none other than Patrick Pile. So we now have 2 of the greatest GTLM drivers out on track in GTD Pro, and we got a few others sprinkled in across the course of the field. In also came the number 19. That is one of the TR3 Racing Lamborghinis. That car was brought in by John McGrew, and the plan was, I believe, for Jacques Toey to take over, I think it was. The 33 is also in. That is the Lance Wilsey driven car for Sean Creech Motorsport. Joao Barbosa is going to take that over. We've got more cars coming down the pit lane. The 57 for Windward Racing, the car that won here last year, that Mercedes. Russell Ward bringing it in. Lucas Auer is the driver who was declared to be taking it back out. We've got the McLaren of John Miller in. That's the 59 for Crucial Motorsport. Paul Holton taking it over. Kenny Habul finally brought the Sun Energy 1 Mercedes in. That's the 75. As he told us earlier, Raffaele Marciello is going to be taking over. And the other McLaren, the 70, Inception Racing, Brendan Reeb bringing it in. Ollie Milroy taking it out, his first ever IMSA start. We have had Corvette Racing in for the number 3. It is Jordan Taylor behind the wheel with the bright yellow machine as of now. And I am waiting for the Risi Competizione Ferrari to come in the pit lane. Davide Rigon started the race. Daniel Serra will finish it.
I think I saw the Milner Motorsports America car come in and go straight behind the wall. The number 6 in the
There's 2 of them.
LMP3s, yes. I think it was that one that went behind the wall. Heart of Racing are in the pit lane at the moment. Can these GT cars then, Jeremy, go on a one stop? They must be able to. There's only 50 minutes to go now.
Yes. Yeah, and you're many of them pitting, you're right on the half distance in this race. Give the drivers the equal amount of seat time.
Sean Olmsted asking about the points in this race. Qualifying points awarded following this race, question mark? Yes, they are. And it will set the grid for next weekend's Rolex 24 Hours at Daytona. And doesn't set the grid, the pit box positions. Nobody's having to move their pit boxes. Here's the 23 Heart of Racing coming in as well. And Shea Adam, not unusually, he's right there, Shea.
First time all year, I get to say it's Ross Gunn out, Alex Riberas in. That is going to be a potent combination for Aston Martin and Heart of Racing. Sticker tires for Alex, as all they're waiting on is the fuel. This team got very good at doing pit stops last year, and it's the same crew working on this pro car this year. It was Tom Gable, by the way, who got in the sister car for Roman DeAngelis. That would be a number 27, fuel and tires for him as well. Into the pit box comes the 24 BMW. This one is the black one, only doing the Endurance Championship. Nick Yellowly taking over from Sheldon Vanderlinde. At least that was the plan when they got started, and I believe that is the British flag on the helmet, so that would be Nick. Fuel and tires for the BMW as well. We've got, speaking of Britain, Aston Martin down the pit lane. That would belong to Magnus Racing. It is their 5th different marquee by my count since 2014, and by far it looks like John Potter is very comfortable in this car. Away goes the BMW after a nice short pit stop for them as they got fuel and tires done, but it is John Potter getting out of the Magnus Aston Martin and Andy Lally getting aboard, so that car's about to climb the charts.
A couple of people saying it is busy now, as a moment or two ago the Pfaff Porsche and the 79 WeatherTech car got together in the international hairpin. It was just a little love tap as they were trying to find the same piece of tarmac. And a problem for Aston Martin number 27, Heart of Racing. It's come to a stop on the infield. And the hard-working safety workers are already with the door open. Now that car, it doesn't look damaged, Jeremy, so technical issue. I was just about to say, a number of people mentioning the 80 car fields in the past here. Tom Gamble has pulled up the 27. My answer to that would be yes, there were 80 cars in the past. But they didn't have the quality or the reliability of what we're seeing this year. Liquid Moly BMW for Turner Motorsport, the number 96 car, right front issue. Now, is that just a tyre, or has there been contact? I'm putting 2 and 2 together and making more than I should, but maybe there's been a side-by-side contact between that BMW M4 GT3. Hearing there was contact between those two cars. The new M4 GT3 seeing it in IMSA competition for the first time. Debuted at the Nürburgring Nordschleife and in the Creventic 24-hour race at Sebring. Yeah, it's down at the western end. It was down at the western end of the infield, and it was the Aston number 27 with Tom Gamble at the wheel, and that number 96 that came together there, Jeremy, and that's given them both a bit of work to do.
Yeah, and the number 27 car then pulls off just
straight away, yeah,
a few hundred yards later, doesn't it? So maybe it was that contact that caused the problem for the Aston, unless it was going slow already. We didn't really see that, but clearly a major problem for the BMW. It's limping its way back, but that bring that back on 3.5 wheels is not going to be good for any other parts of that brand new car. Just a quick note up front, by the way, last time around Oliver Jarvis must have hit a lot of traffic because all of a sudden he turned a 39.8, which was a lot slower than any of his other laps in this race. And now we've got pretty much a 4-car train at the front of it. I guess he's pulled out a little bit again over Pipo Derani, but Richard Westbrook, who 5 or 6 laps ago, 6 or 7 laps ago, did find a way past Ricky Taylor in number 10 Acura. So Westbrook up into 3rd position, closed up he has on Pipo Derani. The gap was almost 5 seconds when he first got past number 10 car. It's now next to nothing. And after he was passed, Ricky Taylor set that car's best lap of the race. That was on lap 29. We've now completed lap 33.
It's Bill Oberlin, by the way, in the Liqui Moly car, and that has come back to the pit lane. Shea Adam is watching the Turner Motorsport team go to work.
All the urgency just went out of their body language, which is never a good thing. They've put the old tires back onto the car, lowering it back down onto the ground. But again, there's no sign of anything trying to be done out here. Bill is going to drive it back to the garage. But this debut for the M4 GT3, not going the way that Turner hoped it would.
Yeah, they didn't have a clean run at Sebring in the 24-hour race there in November, but they got some important testing miles. There's a shortage of BMW M4 GT3s, I think it's fair to say. Paul Miller Racing have ordered one, and they are still waiting. Team telling us that they will have that for the second round of the championship at Sebring in March. Meantime, out on the track, heading towards the exit of the infield and back up onto the Speedway banking. Battle for second and third. Oliver Jarvis has pulled away. In the context of this race, he's got a decent lead at 1.8 seconds. Pipo Derani in second in the red and white Whelen Cadillac has Richard Westbrook for company. Richard slipped past Ricky Taylor 3 or 4 laps ago when Ricky was in traffic and put 2 wheels of the Konica Minolta Acura on the grass coming out of turn 4 down towards turn 5. Your class leaders at the moment, Ollie Jarvis leading the race for Acura number 60. Mikkel Jensen for the number 52 Orica in LMP2 leads for PR1 Matheson Motorsport. Josh Burden is behind the wheel of the leading LMP3 Ligier. So the Ligier getting the better of the Duquesnes there, and that is the number 36 car for Andretti Autosport. GTD Pro Felipe Nasr now behind the wheel of the number 9 FAF Porsche, and Lucas Auer in the Mercedes AMG GT3 number 57 for Winwood Racing is leading in the GTD category after a cracking run, cracking qualifying and first stint by Russell Ward. Meantime, not good news in the pits for the H&R sponsored number 26 in the prototype category, and that is the other Milner Motorsports car.
Well, no, that's the car that was leading the class from the pole position for Cameron Shields. So that has enabled the Andretti car to move into the class lead, which it now has by a pretty comfortable margin over Moritz Krantz in the other. Mueller car number 6. Meanwhile, a quick note also from GTD, the Corvette of Jordan Taylor, car number 3, is now up to 8th position in GTD Pro. He's behind a couple of the non-pro cars. Lucas Auer, who's running 5th amongst GTDs overall in the number 57 Winward car, having taken over from Russell Ward. Paul Holton, who has taken over from John Miller in the crucial McLaren, also is ahead of the Corvette. But the Corvette is only 16 seconds, I think, off the lead in GTD Pro now. So running a lot more competitively in the race today than it was yesterday and practice and qualifying, John.
Now this is interesting. Shea Adam in the pit lane. We've got the Whelen car back in. They must think they can go to the end in 40 minutes from here, Shea.
And I thought that they were going behind the wall at first because they had a very strange approach to come into their pit box, but no, fuel and tires for the Whelen Engineering Cadillac. It is still Pippo Durrani aboard the car, and it looks like very standard service, all fine, okay down here, but yes, the first of our gamblers, they think there might be a caution to get them to the end of this one, maybe.
40 minutes, I think they can probably just about make that, Jeremy.
Yeah, there'll certainly be fuel save involved there, I think, for the number 31 car. Meanwhile, his teammate, Felipe Nasr, teammate from last year, Felipe Nasr, is leading in GTD Pro now. He's, of course, now a factory Porsche driver and has joined the FAF team for this race in car number 9. He's leading GTD Pro. Meanwhile, that 31 car leaves the pit lane after that service.
Yeah, and that erstwhile leading car in LMP3, the Milner Motorsports number 26, the light blue and white car, that was an odd one because they had the engine cover off that car, but it had brand new sticker Michelin tyres on. So it had come in for a service, but then clearly they'd found something that wasn't correct with that car, and it's plummeted down the standings, and their chance of a decent run is over right now. Kamui Kobayashi has taken over from Jimmy Johnson and is now in 4th in the Ally number 48. They go across the line and down into turn 1, going around the outside of one of the Aston Martins, I presume, because we haven't seen the Tom Gamble car moving again. That is the number 23. Yes, it is. That's the Alex Riberas driven car, sitting 4th in GTD Pro. 3rd, Mirko Bortolotti for the Lamborghini of GRT, Grasser Racing Team. 2nd, the 79 WeatherTech Eliseo Piccarello, and Felipe Nasr, as Jeremy reported, at the wheel of the FAF, the plaid Porsche, the number 9 that leads the race. 38 minutes to go, and the die has been cast by Whelen Engineering. 7th at the moment of 7 DPIs at the front of the field, but fuelled, they believe, to the end of the race. And now the waiting game is being played out by them to see what happens to the cars ahead of them. Light blue, number 18, going wide at the east end of the hairpin for Aero Motorsport in LMP2. Now, did he get a little bit of a helping hand there? Yes, he did, from the Inception McLaren, and just managed to stay on the hard standing and then come back on again. That era car, easy to spot that light blue colour. Now, in from the front of the field, Oliver Jarvis has been setting a good pace, and the 60, the pink car, is in the pit lane. Shea Adam.
It was the last pit stop that gave them the lead, and so Meyer Shank Racing hoping that they can keep it by doing a super quick one again now. Fuel and tires, the last aspect of this pit stop to finish is the fuel, and now we're just waiting for the probe to disconnect and Oliver to go, and he was very patient on that. It was quite a restrained leaving the box, actually, barely any white smoke. 34-second stop. That is more than enough fuel to get to the end of this one.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And the 31 car is just coming out of the bus stop on the back straight as Ollie Jarvis is getting up to speed in the pit lane. Jeremy.
Yeah, it's a long way down the pit lane here at Daytona, isn't it? You go around the corner and then quite a bit further down as well before you get to the Michelin RFID equipment to take the temperature effectively of the tyres, determine which tyres they are. They'll have chips, microchips in each of the tyres, so that the emission engineers know who is running what when. But just interesting also in DPI, with these pit stop for the front-running contenders, the two Ganassi cars just changed position. Sebastian Bourdais managed to get past Earl Bamber on that last lap. He had been running 4 or 5 seconds behind him. He closed that gap down, had Bourdais to Bamber. Then they were together last lap, and now Bourdais is ahead of Bamber. With those drive-through penalties earlier on, they're still quite a long way behind the leaders in DPI. But certainly interesting that should be taking place. And by the way, the deficit from them to the car ahead of them, which is the Kamui Kobayashi in the number 48 Ally Cadillac, that had been staying pretty much the same for a goodly period of time. Actually extended a little bit, in fact.
Yeah. Just a note from Turner Motorsport to confirm what I think we knew, that that car has been part of the Liqui Moly 96 after the contact with the Tom Gamble 27 Aston Martin from Heart of Racing. Pit stops at the front of the field. This is crucial time. Sebastian Bourdais in the pits in the 0-1. Shea Adam is watching all of the pit lane action.
Chip Ganassi really likes Sebastian Bourdais, gave him a windshield tear off during this pit stop and everything. So the 0-1 Cadillac racing machine waiting on fuel only. Away he goes. It was 36 seconds for Ollie Jarvis, 37 for Sebastian Bourdais. He too can make it to the end. Now the last time around, the two Cadillac Racing entered cars, even though they are pitted separately, as Roger Penske did, remember, not too long ago with the Acuras, they are pitted separately, but they came in together. This time around, the 0-1 came in. It will be another lap before the 0-2 does come down the pit lane. But it is this lap that the 5 Mustang sampling car comes in, and that will be fuel and tires for Westy to try and go put this car where it started.
And Ollie Jarvis has already gone through there. Jarvis is ahead of the 31 of Pete Durrani after the pit stops. Remember, Oliver Jarvis in the number 60 MSR car was the first car to make its last pit stop. Now we've got Richard Westbrook in the Mustang sampling machine, the gold, black and white machine. Meantime, the two Porsches that were on the front row at the... Oh no, it's not actually, because it's a KCMG car was on the front row, wasn't it? That's dropped way down with Pele. Not sure what the problem was for the black, blue and white car. So the 5 is rolling, Westbrook is rolling. The two Porsches battling it out at the head of GTD Pro at 18th and 19th, and that's Felipe Nasr and Alessio Piccarello.
Good point, that, John, and that number 2 car, because Patrick Pele has set that car's best lap of the race. He did that 4 or 5 laps ago, so we don't know what that problem was that dropped it back, but it's certainly still pretty quick.
So in, as Shea suggested, the 0-2 from Cadillac, and that car with the really dark, almost blood red colouring from, well, the back of the front wheels really, and the faded paint job at the front looks great. Really like that colour scheme. Not a million miles from Soul Crystal Red, for those of you who remember the Mazda with some affection. A bit darker, I would say. Piccarello gets the draft on the high banks. Down towards the bus stop. He's in the 79 WeatherTech red, white and blue car. Meantime, the 10 Konica Minolta car, there you go. Acura is in the pit lane. And that is fuel and tyres only. Shea Adam just telling me there, as the Porsches continue to battle. And it will be the same fuel and tyre stop for the Ally Cadillac as well, the number 48. Two Porsches across the start-finish line. Piccarello maybe just a little bit later on the brakes, closes in.
Yeah, he certainly closed in on Nasser, John.
Yeah.
5 laps ago, there was 3.5 seconds between these two cars. Now, well, there isn't.
Corvette versus Lexus on the high banks. And Porsche, Corvette, Lexus, Mercedes, Aston, BMW, Lamborghini, Ferrari, McLaren, Honda. all racing in GTD in various categories, in the 2 categories. We're only really missing Bentley and Nissan. And at the moment, 8th position is what is being disputed with the in GTD Pro with the Chevrolet Corvette of Jordan Taylor, and that's Townsend Bell behind him. So that's just a GTD car. That's not a pro car that's in behind him.
No, Townsend Bell, of course, isn't classified as a pro, but you know, he's a pretty accomplished driver, as we well know. But certainly the Corvettes, well, this one in particular, is running a lot better than it was yesterday, so that's certainly encouraging for that team. The sister car, number 4, is where? Not. It's about
35th.
I forgot.
35th overall.
How far behind it on the road? Don't know. Have to figure that one out.
It is about 4 seconds, 5 seconds, a little bit more than that actually.
Yeah. And a bunch of positions.
Yeah.
But not a lot of time. So you know, those cars running a lot more competitively than we've seen so far this week. So that's certainly good to see, and it bodes well for the race. We don't want the Corvettes to be uncompetitive, that's for certain. It's interesting to see here the straight line speed differential perhaps between the Corvette and the Lexus as they come across the tri-oval, John.
Yeah, and you know, it's quite a brave thing for Corvette to do. Of course they want to continue racing in the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship, but they've got a car that wasn't built to the regulation set that everybody else has. Now, you can look at that one way and say, well, that could be a massive advantage, but you kind of want to hide into nothing there. If you do win it, then everybody's going to say, of course you should have won it because you've got a GTLM car. And if you don't win it, everybody's going to say, why haven't you won it? Because you've got a GTLM car. I actually think it's really brave of them to do this and continue to racing. I'm absolutely certain that they know that it is going to be a challenge for them because they have had to make so many changes to the car and effectively compromise the car's original design. I'm indebted to the Racing Blog, among others. The number 2 KCMG Porsche was 30 seconds too long in the pit lane. So maybe that's something that Shea Adam can find out. That was the car that was on pole position. Patrick Pile now starting the fight back with half an hour to go. And he is very, very quick.
Did we just mention the fact that Ricky Taylor is in the lead of this race? After that pit stop, he stayed out a lap longer than number 5 car and has emerged in the lead. Did you mention that, John?
No, we haven't. And in fact, Oliver Jarvis, who pitted from the lead first, is now down in 3rd position. He stayed ahead of Pipo Derani, but the other 2 guys have got ahead of him.
Yeah, that's right. So running 3 extra laps has helped, I think, number 10 and number 5, both of them, to vault ahead of the number 60 car of Oliver Jarvis. So Jarvis now right on the tail of Richard Westbrook, but certainly it's been a fairly major, substantial shuffling of the positions there. But all those 3 cars, and Pipo Derani's not too far behind as well, are still very much in contention with just under half an hour remaining.
And Evan Wayne pointing out that the only homologated GT3 cars since 2014 which aren't here in the race are Nissan, Cadillac, Bentley and Audi. Good point about Audi, I'd forgotten about that, sorry. And of those 4, only Audi still have what could be termed an active works GT3 program. Bentley still have customer cars, of course, but Audi still, pretty much all of Audi is customer racing as well. So really only Audi and Bentley, the Cadillac and the Nissan aren't active in the same way as the other manufacturers. So we're only missing a couple, Jeremy, to have the full set. And I have no doubt that Audi North America would love to have the new R8 Evo in this race. We asked about KCMG, 30 seconds longer than everybody else in the pit lane. Shea Adam has asked the question of the team and gives us this answer.
They're not entirely sure what happened during the stop, but the issue comes from the refueling. Something happened where it took an additional almost 30 seconds worth of fuel to try and get the car to where it was pumping fuel back out. So they've got the engineers working on it now. think it might be something within the fuel rig, which would be better than within the car, but they're trying to get an answer.
Right. Well, that's interesting. Again, learning all the time, our Porsche keys to the race. Learning about traffic, learning about the cold, try and get through this without any damage. And remember, it's only a 100-minute race to set the grid. No heroics required here. Tell that to some of the guys putting the lap times in. Best lap that I have seen is a 34.7 by Earl Bamber.
No, it's by Alex Lynn.
Sorry, Alex Lynn, yes, yeah. Sorry, before Earl took it over. Now, how does that stack up, Jeremy, against lap records?
Yeah, lap records, the race lap record here at Daytona is at 34.5. Was set back in 2019 by Felipe Nasser in the Cadillac. Last year's fastest race lap was Renger van der Zande at a 134.6. So we're running pretty much identical times right now. And conditions, actually not bad at the moment, probably. What's the temperature down there, Shay, at the moment? Ish? It's
lovely, Jeremy. Honestly, I'm regretting wearing an extra layer under my fire suit.
Producer for quickish lap times. Meanwhile, out front, it's still Ricky Taylor who leads, but Richard Westbrook is only, 4 or 5 car lengths behind him. Those two have edged out a little bit now over Oliver Jarvis over the last couple of laps. Perhaps that was traffic. Guys on the move though is Kumio Kobayashi in that 48 car. He was about 14 seconds or so behind the 4 leaders who were fairly close before they ran the pit stop. He's got that gap down now to just 8 seconds from Kobayashi in that car number 48, the Ally Cadillac, to Pipo Derani in number 31 championship winning team from last season, the Whelen Engineering Cadillac.
24 minutes to go in the IMSA WSC qualifying race here at the Raw before the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, which is next weekend. Our special programmes and extended coverage starting on Wednesday, 3 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock in the UK. We'll be back in the Haggerty broadcast booth for a special 2-hour show over on RS1. I know that Tim's listening. I presume we can get him to simulcast that on IMSA Radio RS2 as well via IMSARadio.com. And then extended coverage of the practice and qualifying sessions for IMSA WeatherTech, for Michelin Pilot Challenge, Mazda MX-5 as well, of course. It burst onto the scene here this time last year with a tremendous opening race as they came back to the IMSA paddock. IMSARadio.com, foot of the homepage, everything's there. It auto converts the schedules into your time zone. Let's pick up some battles on the circuit. The number 5 Cadillac DPI with Richard Westbrook in second position at the moment. Ricky Taylor is ahead of him, and they are absolutely together at the west end of the infield, with for once a little bit of clear track ahead of them as they head back up onto the high banks. It's going to be the number 62 Ferrari that they next go into. Meantime, GT battles continue. Lucas R and Paul Holton in the Mercedes from Windward, and the very lovely copper metallic McLaren 720S, they're battling over GTD lead at the moment, Jeremy.
They are indeed, a super battle going on there. They're right behind Alex Riberas as well in the 4th position GTD Pro entry. That's number 23 Aston Martin. Meanwhile, up front in GTD Pro, a new leader last time around, Alessio Picciarello, managed to get past Felipe Nasser. So now it's number 79 WeatherTech Proton Porsche ahead of the FAF car in 2nd position. Mirko Bortolotti, by the way, in the number 63 car, run this week by this year by the TR3 Racing entry team, is running pretty closely in 3rd position. So we're now got a 3-car battle all of a sudden, it seems, in GTD Pro, John.
Yeah, just trying to pick up where the other battles are, and it's really, I mean, Jamie Price earlier was saying how hard it was to pick out some of his clients to photograph them. It is just a never-ending ribbon of cars out on the whole 3.5 miles of the circuit here. It's absolutely extraordinary to see this many cars here. The biggest field since I've been coming here. Yes, I know, not as big as back in the day, but as Jeremy was saying earlier on, and I can't imagine there'll be that many people who will argue the point here. The cars are more reliable, and there are more cars within each of the classes, Jeremy, that have a chance of a podium or even better. There's no fillers, they're all winners here.
Yeah, that's right. It is a super competitive field, and I think this, what we've seen today, we haven't seen perhaps as much cut and thrust as we might see in a week's time, but it's still been a really interesting race. And there seems to be, up at the front of the field, seems to be very little to choose between any of the contenders, certainly in DPI, because the Acura and the Cadillac look very, very closely matched. So it's going to be a question of who makes fewest mistakes, I think, next week. But it's been a really good contest. It's continuing right now. Ricky Taylor leads, but Richard Westbrook, what a great return this has been for Westy into the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship on a full-time basis, running with that number 5 team this year, the Mustang Sampling Cadillac for JDC Motorsports, and he's pushing Ricky Taylor as hard as he can.
Under 20 minutes to go now, Jeremy, and Earl Bamber does set the fastest lap of the race. Obviously, you heard me talking about him earlier on. 1:34.628 last time around. So just brings that down a wee bit. Sebastian Bourdais, who he's 6.5 seconds behind, has just put his fastest lap of the race in. Now that battle we were looking at earlier on, that was bottled up behind Alex Riberas in the Aston Martin, has now cleared the Aston Martin. So the 720, the copper-coloured car with Paul Holton behind the wheel, and Lucas R has cleared off. But that means that Jules Gounon, I think it is, behind him, is now having a scrap in one of the AMGs from WeatherTech. So that's all changed since the last time we took a look at that. At the front of the field, Ricky Taylor still has Richard Westbrook right at his wheel tracks. Very impressed, Jeremy. What about Porsche keys to the race was, the relatively cool temperatures and how the guys need to be careful on the outlaps. So far, with 18 minutes to go, we shouldn't really see any more pit stops. Haven't seen any problems with people getting back up to speed, getting out of the pits. So clearly listening to their engineers. But this battle for the lead, ebbing and flowing through the traffic, it just looks to me as though Ricky Taylor, and unusually, normally it's the leader that gets the worst of the traffic because they hit it first, but Ricky Taylor does seem to be making better time through the traffic than Richard Westbrook, and there's something I didn't expect to hear myself say today.
Yeah, but again, this is it's not the Rolex 24. This is a qualifying race, and Westy, I'm sure, is pretty happy. He's just getting himself back in the groove of driving a DPI car again, John, isn't he? So he's not going to the envelope too hard here. If he starts second next week, he'd like to start from the pole position, no question about it. But I think that team and Westy himself would be pretty content with second position.
That's Jeremy Shaw. He's with me, John Hindhoff, in the Haggerty broadcast booth. Adam in the pit lane. Rene Rast has just put another fastest lap in LMP2. And that's, again, there's a sentence you wouldn't expect to hear, but this is all preparation for Audi's LMDH program. They're waiting for the car to be developed by Porsche so that they can get their hands on it. Porsche ran their LMDH recently for some PR events, a little bit later than they were hoping. There's been some delays with the hybrid system, which fits in the bell housing. might still be some delays on that. It was suggested to me that that car might have been running at the Weissach test track without the hybrid internals in it. And they're doing all the chassis and engine work. Porsche being very coy about what engine they're going to use. They've got plenty to choose from in their motorsport department. And once Porsche have got that car done, Audi, who are at the moment embroiled in their aero package for the bodywork, they'll get their chassis and then bang their bodywork on as well. Lots of excitement to come this year before this race next year, where we'll see the world debuts of those new DPI 2.0s, the IMSA version of the global sports car top class, LMDH. Big battle going on down at turn 1 with the Grasser Lamborghini in behind the gradient.
Well, it's not Grasser anymore, it's TR3 nowadays.
Oh yes, of course it is, yeah.
But yeah, no, Bertolotti was closed right in on Piccarello, trying to make a move there, but he sort of held up by traffic problems there. But Lamborghini is clearly pretty fast now, and he's left Felipe Nasser a little bit behind him. There he goes down the inside. That was a bold move. Turn 6, it takes the lead then in GTD Pro, does the Lamborghini, but the Porsche coming back on the straight.
Is it ever? Up on the high side.
Wow.
Gets 3/4 of the way by. That's not going to be quite enough. Now the Lamborghini coming back as the track flattens out into the braking area for the bus stop on the back straight. They're side by side into there. This is the battle for second in the category, and the Lamborghini has gone through. Mirko Bortolotti ahead of Felipe Nasser.
For first, John, that was for the lead.
I thought Piccarello was still up the road. Oh, sorry, that is Piccarello. Excuse me,
Piccarello.
Wrong, absolutely my fault. Felipe Nasser behind that battle, wrong Porsche. I was thinking about there completely. So that was the battle for the lead. Jeremy is right. And the plaid Porsche is just in behind there, trying to get a bit of a draft from one of the LMP3s that are coming through. Now, looks as though maybe, just maybe, Alessio Piccarello is struggling with the front end of that number 79 WeatherTech car. This is for pole position next weekend, remember, and a bit of bragging rights. Certainly been having problems getting that car near to the apices of corners, Jeremy, on turning. That WeatherTech number 79 Porsche, the white, red and blue car.
Yeah, it looked like it stepped a little bit sideways also coming off that corner as well, so maybe, we don't know whether they changed tyres during the pit stop. Perhaps they didn't. Perhaps that might explain why the car is slipping and sliding a little bit in the late stages. We don't know, conjecture, but in any case, the Lamborghini is in the lead of the class. Meanwhile, up front, Richard Westbrook clearly has not given up hopes of getting past Ricky Taylor as they head onto the banking for the 53rd time. How long to go? Just 13 minutes remaining. Interesting to me, John, they've edged away, continuing to edge away from, well, actually now Pipo Derani is all of a sudden up into third position in number 31 Whelen Engineering Cadillac.
I wonder if Ollie Jarvis is having to do some fuel saving. He was the first car to stop, of course, wasn't he?
I completely, yes. He was the second one, actually. Number 31 car was in before him, a couple of laps before him.
Right.
Oddly, that's Pipo Derani who just made that pass.
That was 40 minutes to go, wasn't it? Just over 40 minutes to go when they left the pit lane.
Yeah, 40 minutes to go when number 31 car pitted, and about 36 minutes when the 60 car pitted. The 60 car was in a couple of laps before the number 5, and the number 10 car was the last of the leaders to pit.
Yeah, that's Ollie Jarvis.
The number 48.
About the 60. The 10 is Ricky Taylor in the Acura. Now, what was I just noticed something there, and then I've been distracted because there's other things going on. Owen Trinkler into the pits in Porsche number 64 for his team. And Shea Adam was watching that car. I'll get this share in a moment. She's just told me it's gone behind the wall, so we'll get some news on that. The battle for the lead has really heated up. That's what I was going to talk about. We haven't talked about that for a wee while. And Richard Westbrook got about an eighth of the way down the inside of Ricky Taylor, and now has another little look as he dives out to the left under braking on the entrance to the back straight chicane, the bus stop. He was nearly there, backed out of it at the last moment, had to ride the curbs on the right hand side, the left-hander leading back onto the banking. Wasn't flavour of the month with Wayne Taylor, who was watching on. Rene Rast sets another fastest lap in LMP2. Gap between himself and Jonathan Bomarito and the number 11 Oringer in second in class, down to 11.5 seconds. Fabio Scherer is trying to get somewhere near to Rast, but that's a forlorn hope with the way Rast is driving at the moment.
Scherer was ahead of Rast until just a few laps ago, and Rast has really put the hammer down, and he's not only caught and passed Scherer, but as you say, he is going. He's by far the fastest car on the track in LMP2 at the moment. Meanwhile, the two PR1 cars, they're well ahead. Mikkel Jensen, number 52, is about 26 seconds ahead of Jonathan Bomarito in the sister car. And as you said, René Rast about another 11 seconds back, so unlikely to make up that deficit, I think, in the time remaining in this race. But certainly it's a good run for René Rast in Germany, former DTM champ.
So just to confirm once again, Owen Trinkler into the pit lane in the number 64 Team TGM Porsche, and that car has gone behind the wall. So clearly issues in the last 10 minutes for them. In fact, actually, let's go down to Shea, because I might be giving you some false information there. Shea, Adam, what do you know about Team TGM, the 64 Porsche?
They haven't done a ton of running so far this weekend, John. They've actually sat out night practice last night, although Owen Trinkler was a little bit more invested in the NFL game going on. I'm sorry about the Titans, by the way, it's still too soon. But the team had planned to start this race, run through, do at least one pit stop, and then see how they were doing. They ran a lot of this race, but they have a lot of information, and Wright Motorsport helping to run that car for the Rolex weekend. That could be a very good dark horse, but no known issues with the car.
All right, so that was a planned retirement, if you will. It's the championship game weekend in NFL, deciding the two teams that will go to the Super Bowl, which is why I think a few people are a little bit excited about that. So 8 minutes to go.
Change to fourth position, John, with Kamui Kobayashi having found a way past Oliver Jarvis. I think you're right. I think Jarvis must be struggling with fuel, perhaps. But certainly interesting that the Cadillac of Durrani doesn't seem to be, because he's pulled well away from Jarvis, who's now fallen behind Kamui Kobayashi, who's been charging really hard. And that number 48 car, that's pretty fast.
Let's go back to Shea. More news of late pit stoppers, and this one was one of the early favourites, Shea.
This was the pole sitter for this qualifying race, the number 2 KCMG Porsche. Patrick Pilet had a very slow, well, not him, but the team had a very slow stop when the car was refueling. Clearly there was a bigger refueling issue. The car is coming back in, which it was not expected to do, but they didn't get a full tank in that extremely long stop. So, well, it started off as a great day, has gone to really bad. And by the way, guys, I don't know if you could hear that in the background. That's Ollie Jarvis in the Meyer Shank Racing Acura. Yeah, he's on a massive fuel save. He is lifting at start finish, but I checked with the team. They're confident they can get him to the checkered flag.
Oh, very, very tight between the two leaders. Very tight indeed, going past the Cetilar Ferrari. And now they've got another Ferrari right ahead of them. That's the AF Corsa car. Sorry, the number 21, which is the AF Corsa car. Doubt yourself, Hindhoff. It's a red Ferrari. Amato Ferrari must have something to do with running it, surely. 6.5 minutes to go on the high banks. First and second separated by a couple of cars lengths. Ricky Taylor in the number 10. Konica Minolta Acura. Hello to Simon Strang, who's got the dreaded lurgy at the moment. Watching and listening back in the UK. Hopefully we're keeping you distracted, Simon. Get well soon. At IMSA Radio, last 5.5 minutes of this race. Westbrook has done everything except get past, got alongside almost. These cars very, very evenly matched. More traffic ahead. Is this Richard Westbrook's chance? He's on the flasher. That's going to give him another 2 or 3 miles an hour, isn't it, surely? Round turn 1 and in through turn 2, through the little chicane. Heart of Racing Aston Martin staying dutifully to the left-hand side for both of those cars. Maybe just compromise the leader a little bit, and Westbrook's right under the rear wing as they come out of the International Horseshoe. On the infield, down towards what is a flat-out kink in these prototypes. At the west end, there's maybe a car's length between them, less than that now as Westbrook closes. He's very strong on this part of the circuit. Might get an opportunity to come from a long way back, and he does come from a long way back, but can't get close. And that left-hander as they climb back onto the speedway turn number 1 and 2. And now the Acura just seems to stretch its legs. Fascinating for me, Jeremy, if this is what we're going to have next weekend. Fascinating for me. They're virtually putting in the same lap times, but they're making their lap speed in these 2 different DPIs in very different ways.
Pretty interesting, isn't it? And the number 10 car that leads the race yesterday after qualifying.
Jeremy, just a second. We have news with 4 minutes to go. And it is the number 31, Pipo Derani, the first of the cars that made their last stop. Can't go to the end of the race. It will peel off into the pit lane. BMW coming in as well. It's the 24 car from RLL. So now we find out who got their calculations right. Sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just going to say that after qualifying yesterday, number 10 car qualified in second position with Philip Albuquerque, but Shay talked about it right before the race started. The time was annulled because the rear wing assembly was not at the minimum angle, so it was running a little bit less wing angle effectively than it should be. So it gave me a little bit straight line speed advantage by doing that. I think it certainly wasn't done on purpose for sure, but that car was put to the back, but it's clearly running very well now. And Wayne Taylor's team, that Konica Minolta Acura, certainly is up front right now. And Ricky Taylor, well, he's never going to be the easy guy to get past, is he?
Yeah, good luck with that. And particularly, you know what? This is not the end of a long championship. This is not the big trophy up for grabs. It's not even the end of the 24-hour race. And I dare say that there may be, if this was for the watch next weekend, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I suggest that the overtaking attempts by Westbrook might be a little bit more robust, shall we say. But this is for which side of the front row you start on next week. So it really isn't do or die at this point. But I tell you what, it bodes well for next weekend. It really does. More traffic ahead of the leaders. 2.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, so it will be white flag next time around, John.
The silver grey Corvette, goes another lap back. Here comes Richard Westbrook, dives to the right-hand side, past the Lamborghini, into the kink. It's going to hold Westbrook up. Taylor got the best of that exchange, and the half a second at the line has just moved up a little bit. But now Westbrook has got a bit of clear track. Oh, the leaders push very, very wide indeed by the Inception McLaren on the run from the Western Horseshoe down towards the left-hander that leads back onto the main straight. That was very, very tight indeed. Now onto the high banks, we know that. Acura goes very well indeed. Kobayashi 10 seconds, 11 seconds away from this battle in third for the Allied Cadillac. Then it's the number 60 MSR Acura, another 6 seconds further back. Then the two Chip Ganassi Cadillacs, 0-1 and 0-2, separated by a couple or 3 seconds. Right up to the top of the racetrack for the leader. Ricky Taylor made it 3 wide there in Speedway Turn 4. Not sure he got the best run through there. Here comes Westbrook again. They go past the better placed of the two GT Daytona Corvettes. Here's Westbrook, looks down the inside. He's there, he's up alongside, there's a touch and he spins. Westbrook spins.
Shows you how much I know, doesn't it?
Well, that was robust, it was. And Wayne Taylor is open-mouthed at that move, and that sort of reflects, I think, what Jeremy was saying earlier on. He came from a very, very long way back. The door was left open by Ricky Taylor. There was a Cadillac width space on his left-hand side, but of course it was always going to close. Very, very interesting. Westy was there, he got in just about, but then decided against it, and maybe that was the downfall. Very nearly clipped the tyre bundle on the inside, on the left-hand side of that marks the first of the apices of turns 1 and 2. Just an extraordinary
was that Rennie Rast that was taking it, or was it the other G-Drive car that was kind of taking some evasive action there? Because Rennie Rast, by the way, you talked about a while ago, John, running third in LMP2.
Oh, he's done.
He closed that gap down to 3 seconds to Bomberito, who has just responded in the second position to set the fastest lap of the race in LMP2. No, his fastest lap of the race.
Up on the high banks for the final time. Pole position at stake. Pole position has been taken by the Konica Minolta Acura DPI number 10. The Wayne Taylor Racing run car has survived a last corner lunge, or a last lap lunge, should I say, from Richard Westbrook, who should still come through in second position. I don't think Kobayashi got by him. It was only about 1.5 seconds at the last timing gap. It will be Mikkel Jensen in 8th position overall for the number 52 PR1 Matheson Motorsport that takes pole. And the points, remember, there's championship points up for grabs here, so max points there for LMP2. For LMP3, Josh Burden is coming home in the number 36. That's the Andretti Autosport car, and they will take pole in LMP3. GTD Pro, how about this? Mirko Bortolotti in the Lamborghini, getting ahead of the Porsches a couple or 3 laps ago, actually a bit further back in time than that. But that number 63 will take the pole position. That's been a really well-run race by that whole squad, and the TR3 racing team will be delighted with that. The light green Lambo crosses the line ahead of the 2 Porsches. 79 WeatherTech on the outside the front row, then Philippe Inaza for Pfaff, and 57 is Winward Racing. They'll be on the GTD Pro. It's a win in the qualifying race and pole position for Wayne Taylor and his number 10 car. Shea Adam.
It is, and Wayne, how nice is it to come back to Daytona and finish this qualifying race exactly where you finished the race a year ago, out front?
Well, I'm really excited. We've had a tough weekend, and the race certainly wasn't easy. As you saw, Westbrook was pushing really hard there, but Ricky kept him off and won the race, and so that's all I care about.
Congratulations. Yeah, he's going to run off the pit wall now and go see his son.
Of course he is. Why wouldn't he? Well, Jeremy, robust, we said, well, possibly not. we reckoned against Richard Westbrook there, didn't we?
Yeah, he was having too much fun out there. He certainly gave it a good college try there, I must admit. And Ricky Taylor suddenly realised last minute that he better shut that door, so he kind of did. And Westbrook was never completely alongside him, but Ricky Taylor certainly knew he was there. But that was a tremendous motor race, and Ricky Taylor comes away with the win. Boy, this team knows all about winning at Daytona, doesn't it? They won it the last 3 years in a row, this team. Right?
They are maestros at this event, aren't they? Very, very good indeed.
That was a lot of fun all the way around. By the way, in LMP2, René Rast ended up only 1.5 seconds behind Jonathan Bomarito, with 7 laps to go. It was 8 seconds between the two of them. So Rast was really charging at the end there, and does set the fastest lap of the class, 1:35.7 for René Rast, which is faster than Nicolas Lapierre's lap record of 1:36.0 set in 2020 in LMP2.
Hashtag Michelin PRT to @IMSA Radio. Lots to unpack on that. Shea will get us some more interviews as well. Just going through some of the other finishing positions then. So it was Connington and Alter on the top step of the podium, and therefore pole position next weekend. From Cadillac number 5, that is the Mustang sampling machine. They do get to go to victory lane, and third Kami Kobayashi finished off the Allied Cadillac. In LMP2, PR1 Matheson Motorsport, Mikkel Jensen finishing off what Ben Keating started. Shea Adam.
It's a little bit of deja vu for Ben Keating. Second year in a row this qualifying race has gone pretty well for you. Although I've got to ask, is your heart rate a little bit elevated by the actions of the Mustang sampling Cadillac there at the end?
It was a really fun to watch for sure. You know, I'd say luckily our race was a little bit less exciting. For us, we had enough of a gap that we weren't too concerned about it in the LMP2 class. But golly, Richard drove his tail off. You know, he tried to pull a Ricky Taylor there in turn 1 on Ricky Taylor, and that was fun for me to watch also. He ended up getting it turned around, didn't really lose a position, and as far as I'm concerned, turnabout is fair play.
Exactly. Hey, good job out there in the qualifying race. Good luck from pole on Saturday.
Yeah, thank you. Pretty excited. We got first and second as a team at PR1, and first and second in terms of Team Keating. So it was good.
Thank you, Shea. Finishing up the positions in LMP2, second for the number 11. That was the PR1 Matheson Taft's car. Jonathan Bomarito bringing that car in third. René Rast with that tremendous drive in the number 68, setting fastest lap after fastest lap for G-Drive by Algarve Pro Racing. Then in fourth position, so making up the outside of the first two rows, Fabio Scherer in the number 20, that being the high-class racing machine that will be sharing with Anders Fjordbach, Nico Müller and Dennis Anderson next weekend. LMP3 then is the Ligier, Josh Burden we've mentioned. Then it was the two Duquesnes. Moritz Kranz, did he drive that all on his own, or did he swap in and out of it a couple of times? It seems like he was in every time I looked at it. That's the Milder Motorsports car that had the issues at the start, remember. That car started right at the back of the field. Didn't get out of the pit lane as sharply as perhaps we'd expected it to do. In second place for that category. And then it was Kuno Wittner bringing the number 13. That's the AWA car home in third position. Shea has some more winners.
Andrea Caldarelli, you've won this race before, not the qualifying, but the big one. How nice is it, though, to get a pole position here?
Yeah, it's definitely good. I never start in pole position for this race, so that's definitely something good. It's also, more rewarding the fact that it's a brand new category, the GTD Pro. So I'm really proud to gain this victory together with TR3 Racing and Squadra Corse.
It's a very solid driver lineup between the four of you, and it seems like you have a good car too. Were you able to dice around as much as you were hoping with the other GTD competition?
The car has many years in the pocket, so it's now just really trim every single details and working on just small things. We know we have a good package. We saw that our competitors are also really strong, and the fact that we finish P1, P2, P3 in 1 second, it's definitely show that.
Congrats on today. Good luck next week.
Thank you.
We've mentioned GTD Pro with the TR3 Lamborghini ahead of the WeatherTech Porsche number 79, the FAF Porsche number 9. In the GTD class itself, Lucas R brought home the number 57 Winward AMG GT3. Splendid job in qualifying and in the first part of the race by Russell Ward, ahead of the McLaren. Paul Holton finishing off the job there for Crucial Motorsports. Then behind them, it was the Wright Motorsports number 16 in third place, and making up the top 4 cars, therefore on the outside of the front row for GTD will be the number 12 Lexus RCF, the Vassar Sullivan car for, it was Townsend Bell, wasn't it? They brought that in just ahead actually of Raffaele Marciello in the Sun Energy 1 car, and Guy Cosmo wasn't that far behind either in the number 32 Gilbert Korthoff Motorsports Mercedes. So plenty of Mercedes there at the sharp end, but a Lamborghini ahead of 2 Porsches in GTD Pro. See if we can get a quick word with any of the GTD runners before we sign off from our race coverage and take a short breather before we head into Michelin Post Race Tech. Hashtag Michelin PRT, and Shea Adam has indeed found another winner for us in LMP3. Here's Josh Burden.
Josh, that was quite the job out there. Was it as difficult for you behind the wheel as it looked on the cameras? Because it looked like you were working pretty hard.
Yeah, we still have work to do for our race car. It's a little bit warmer than it was yesterday, and we haven't really been able to practice long runs, but we was practicing a lot of different things, fuel saving, a lot of team procedures and things like that. So it's a bonus to win, but to be honest, I'm not really happy yet. We'll be all happy when we have a Rolex on our wrist.
All right, I'll do the same chat with you next Sunday. How about that?
Thank you.
Very good. Very good indeed. So the celebrations going on down in Victory Circle. And we'll have your submissions, please. Hashtag Michelin PRT to at IMSA Radio. We've already got them flooding in, so we will have a little bit of a wash up of what's been going on this weekend. But for the moment, it's congratulations to the Acura number 10 crew from Wayne Taylor Racing and Konica Minolta. They've taken first blood and pole position. When we see them next time in competition, they'll be leading the field to green for the 60th running of the Rolex Daytona 24 Hours. Michelin Post Race Tech is next. Don't go anywhere. Michelin Post Race Tech, our first one of 2022. It's John Heinhoff and Jeremy Shaw in the Haggerty broadcast booth. Shea Adams going to try and grab and just tidy up some of the winners that we haven't heard from at Michelin PRT. Well, Jeremy, I thoroughly enjoyed that. How the heck we've kept up with that with 61 cars on the track. I got lost a couple of times, I'll be honest. Just trying to look and see where things were and where things are going on. We're going to have our work cut out next week. There's no doubt about it.
But that was a fascinating race. It really was. Various interesting notes. There seems to be nothing to choose between any of the Cadillacs or indeed the two Acuras as well. In terms of pace, they seem to be very, very closely matched. Driver lineups, ditto. So that's going to be really interesting next week. Strategy-wise, that was very interesting to see. The number 31 car made its first stop just a little bit too early, basically. Got a bit too optimistic there. I'm sure they were planning on there being a full course caution at some stage, so they came in quite a bit earlier than one would have normally anticipated, ended up biting them. But, again, I'm sure they won't be too disappointed by that. The car had good pace, and it was competitive. The two Ganassi cars, they both had drive-through penalties. So again, that's something they will tweak.
Good.
That minimum pit speed button that needs to be slightly recalibrated after both of them got a penalty in the early stages. But boy, that was a great battle up front.
Yeah, and Richard Westbrook proving that he's not one to be trifled with. All right, he didn't take the victory there, but I don't think that was necessarily what was at stake. We said in our Porsche case the race you wanted to avoid damage. He just about did that. I think what he has done is he's put their cards on the table and said, we know how good you guys are at Wayne Taylor Racing, at Connington Minolta, at the Acura team, but we're here to give you a run. And if that's what we get next week for 24 hours, well, first of all, we're going to have no voices left and our heads will probably explode, but we'll go happy because it'll be tremendously exciting. And that's before you add in the other cars there. There's no doubt that the other Acura, the Michael Shank car, with Ollie Jarvis finishing that off, no doubt that they've got pace. I think they were doing a little bit of fuel saving towards the end. Shea was mentioning that there was a bit of lifting and coasting across the start-finish line, and that's only one of the classes, Jeremy.
Yeah, exactly right. They definitely, that was the other team that got a bit optimistic on their fuel, I think. So it looks like 37 minutes is really stretching the envelope here. But it was a fascinating contest between all of them. As far as Westy is concerned, welcome back. He's been out of prototype cars now for quite a few years. So it's even as professional as he is, as experienced as he is, it's still going to take a little bit of getting used to again to drive one of these cars, as opposed to a GT car, which we've been driving for the last few years. And clearly he adapted very, very quickly. He went for it there at the end. I didn't expect him to, but of course he did. As you say, no damage, got away with it. Just kind of pinched that car down a bit, spun it around, but didn't lose that second position.
No,
but,
not at all.
That team, it's great to see that JDC Mustang sampling car running very, very competitively again, and hopefully that'll be on a regular basis.
Yes.
I mean, they had a great win at Sebring last season when, after everything had gone wrong in the first few hours, it all went right at the end. But other than that, it was a pretty disappointing year on the whole for that team. But now, clearly, that car is right up front again, and they're looking for a strong season ahead.
No, I'd agree.
Start to it.
I'd agree with that. Let's pick up some more atmosphere after the race and some driver's eye view. Paul Holton, second in class in the McLaren. Shea Adam is with him now.
Well, we all know to expect great things out of the 57 Mercedes that won this race last year, so it's not a surprise that they're on pole. But hello, Crucial Motorsports. That's a statement, Paul Holton, for your little team that can. The McLaren looked really good out there today, and at points, it looked like you had something for the Mercedes.
Yeah, honestly, I think probably a little longer race, we would have definitely had something for them. It's really hard to manage traffic, and that's a big part of it is when they catch you and when they catch them, because if you get caught in the infield and they get caught on the banking, you've got to now make that time up yourself. But it comes back to you because they're going to go the other way around, and they're going to get caught in the infield, and you're going to get caught on the banking. So it gives and takes. I think it's really interesting. The BOP was really good. We were really close. Even with the pro cars. And I think that's super cool to be out here in a GTD car with a bronze, 2 silvers, and a gold, and we're fighting guys with 4 platinums in the car. So I think the guys did a really good job. We've been prepping for this for a couple months now, and I think definitely, like you said, making a statement. We're here to compete.
And in terms of the race, it wasn't actually as cool out as we were expecting, and it's not as cool as it's going to be for race week. Is your car going to be stronger when the temperatures drop?
Our car, yeah. We do really well in the night with low temperatures. So I'm looking forward to those night stints. Definitely today was hotter than we anticipated. It was a bit tough to manage the tire and kind of keep the tire from overheating. You'd kind of go up and down. So it was fun. It was a little bit of hard work out there, but that's what we want to do as race car drivers.
Great job today. Can't wait to see what happens next weekend.
Thank you, Shay.
Well, 61 cars, no cautions. That was 100 minutes caution-free. Yeah, it was only 100 minutes, but it was still caution-free. So there's a point for those people who said perhaps there was too many cars. Stephen Gardner says, a quick question. Do we think they can do as good a job in terms of the clean racing next weekend when real prizes are on the line and the rev mess descends? Well, that's the $50 billion question, Stephen, to be quite honest. I think, Jeremy, in some ways, having that many cars out there does actually focus people's minds more.
Yeah, it does, because you have to have your wits around you all of the time. There were a few relatively minor incidents there, and it was a remarkably clean race. And I'm sure race control will be breathing a sigh of relief and desperately hoping that this form continues into next week.
Exactly.
Because to go 100 minutes without a caution, with that many cars on the track, says a lot about the quality of the drivers who were taking part. So hats off to everybody for making it clean. There are a few cars that kind of pulled out for one reason or another, not necessarily, I think, retirements. Number 54 car didn't complete a lap at all. Maybe they didn't even start in the core order spot. LMP3 car. Another couple of LMP3 cars are also out early. Gar Robinson in the championship winning car from last season